the scent of roasting meat mingled with the sharp, chemical tang of bleach, lingering in the air like an omen of something terrible. Elsa, a woman whose eyes were clouded with unspeakable dread and exhaustion, stood at the stove. Her movements were jagged and erratic, like an animal in flight. Her once brown hair had turned gray, matted and filthy, hanging loosely around her shoulders. She muttered to herself, her words an unintelligible babble, broken by fits of nervous, hollow laughter. At the table, her 10-year-old daughter Lily carefully assembled a rainbow puzzle, the only splash of color in the drab, fear-riddled house. Elsa's schizophrenia was slowly dismantling her life, reducing her to a mere shadow of who she had once been. Though treatment offered some relief, it was never enough to stop the hallucinations, delusions, and paranoia that twisted her perception of reality. On this day, as so many before, her world was a nightmarish labyrinth. The walls seemed to whisper, the shadows appeared to move, and an unseen presence hovered just beyond her sight, ready to strike. Lily, too young to fully understand the depths of her mother's illness, had learned to tread quietly, to make herself invisible in hopes of preventing a violent outburst. She had become adept at reading Elsa's eyes, sensing when the storm was about to break. The house was quiet, but Lily could feel an undercurrent of tension, as though the ground was trembling before an earthquake. Suddenly, Elsa snapped from her reverie. Her gaze, which was usually soft and filled with love, had turned vacant, wild. She saw a dark shape in the corner of the room, a figure she believed was threatening Lily. It shifted and morphed, becoming a monstrous creature with claws and fangs. "She wants to take Lily," Elsa whispered, her voice faltering, her heart raced. In a frantic panic, she seized the nearest object, a heavy cast-iron skillet that had just been used to roast meat. Lily, startled by the sudden movement, looked up. She saw not the warm, familiar eyes of her mother, but an expression of pure terror, primal and animalistic. The girl opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, Elsa swung the skillet with a frantic cry, not comprehending what she was doing. The blow was brutal. The frying pan struck Lily's head with a sickening thud, breaking the silence of the room. The puzzle's rainbow shattered, pieces scattering like the fragments of Elsa's mind. Lily crumpled to the floor, silent, her head bleeding. Time seemed to stop for Elsa. The hallucinations vanished, replaced by the cold, harrowing reality. She looked at her daughter's lifeless body, covered in blood, and the weight of what she had done crashed down on her. Horror, unbearable and suffocating, held her in place. She sank to her knees, clutching Lily's body, her screams no longer those of a woman lost in madness, but of a mother drowning in remorse, despair, and agony. The room fell into a profound stillness. The only sound was Elsa's sobs, ragged and broken. The air, thick with the stench of meat, bleach, and blood, seemed to suffocate her, a scent that would forever haunt her memory. The police arrived swiftly. Elsa, overwhelmed by grief and the crushing realization of her actions, made no attempt to resist. Her eyes were empty, devoid of hope. She knew deep down that she could never atone for what she had done, that this horror would cling to her for the rest of her days. The investigation was long and painful. Elsa's schizophrenia was confirmed, but that did little to diminish the gravity of the crime. The court found her guilty of manslaughter, though her mental state led to a more lenient sentence. Elsa was sent to a psychiatric hospital, where years of treatment and a lifelong battle with her illness awaited her. In the years that followed, Elsa fought to come to terms with the horror she had inflicted. Each day, she relived that terrible moment, the image of Lily's face, her voice, her smile, all haunting her in hallucinations that twisted into painful, nightmarish visions. Elsa attempted to express her sorrow through art and poetry, but words and images could never capture the depth of her grief. Doctors employed various treatments to ease her suffering, but the scars on Elsa's soul were too deep. Medication and therapy sessions offered little solace, as Lily's presence, real or imagined, remained with her, tormenting her in dreams and waking moments. Night after night she was trapped in a cycle of guilt, seeing Lily in her mind, sometimes as an angel, sometimes as a demon, always silent but filled with reproach. One day Elsa shared her visions with her doctor, describing how Lily appeared to her in different forms, sometimes as an innocent child, other times as a reflection of her own lost youth. The doctor recognized that Elsa was not merely punishing herself for her actions, but was projecting the turmoil of her illness onto her daughter. The doctor worked with Elsa to help her accept responsibility for her actions, while also understanding that her illness had warped her perception of reality. He taught her to recognize the signs of an impending episode, equipping her with tools to manage the symptoms. Years passed. Elsa learned to live with the agony of her loss, but she never forgot Lily. She kept a small memorial in her room, photos and drawings she made during her treatment. She found ways to manage her illness, knowing that it would always be a battle, demanding constant vigilance. One afternoon, while walking through the hospital grounds, Elsa saw a little girl playing with a ball. The child's laughter was bright and carefree, and Elsa's heart clenched with a sharp, unrelenting pain. The girl looked so much like Lily. Elsa stopped, watching her, knowing she could never bring her daughter back. But she also understood that she had to move forward, carrying Lily's memory with her to ensure no tragedy like that would ever happen again. Elsa continued with her treatment, participating in both group and individual therapy. She found the strength to forgive herself, though the process was excruciating. She had come to understand that her illness was not an excuse for her actions, but a factor in the tragedy. She learned to live with the burden of her guilt, and though her life had quieted, it was always marked by the shadow of her loss. Lily's memory remained, forever a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of fighting for her mental health. The rainbow puzzle Lily had been working on the day of the tragedy would forever remain etched in Elsa's mind, a symbol of shattered hope and a painful reminder of the cost of madness.